I see Grublet.
Uh-oh. Who's that?
Grublet.
The pig.
We're back with Bart and Coley Glasgow, Cherokee County parents concerned about critical race theory taught in public schools and the push to create diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
I just don't think it has a place in school.
So far, they've learned critical race theory is not taught in public schools. It's studied mostly in law school, and the real emphasis is about teaching a more accurate picture of American history.
I'm Bart Glasgow.
It's now time for the Glasgows to meet their next expert.
Pleasure meeting you.
He's Dr. Tommy Welch, the Chief Equity Officer with Gwinnett County Public Schools. Dr. Welch's job is the same position Coley expressed concerns about after learning her district, Cherokee County, hired someone for the same role.
Because they had already hired someone out of Maryland, and I thought that was kind of a sneaky way to do that.
Cherokee County's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Administrator resigned from her position shortly after parents protested her hiring, never meeting her in person.
I thank y'all for doing this.
Dr. Welch takes the time to explain his role and how he defines equity.
When you think about equity, I want you to think about the shoes that we wear. We all have different size feet. The shoes that we put on, we want to make sure that those shoes fit. If we gave everyone the same size shoe, one might be too tight, another one might be too big. But if we give everyone the shoe that fits, they can maximize their performance, whether they're walking or running.
Dr. Welch tells Coley and Bart how DEI programs train teachers to help students with unfamiliar backgrounds.
So let's think about this. Could there also be a thought that if you don't speak English, maybe you can't learn at a high level? Mm-hmm. Could there be a thought that because you don't speak English as a primary language, that maybe you need to sit out and not take this test for gifted because you haven't mastered the English language yet? Mm. So these are things that impact students along the way. And without diversity, equity, and inclusion training, those things may go unnoticed. Your lens is for your child, but they go to school with a lot of other children. Mm-hmm. So how can we ensure that everyone gets what they need, the shoe that they need that fits their foot?
It's time to say goodbye to Dr. Welch.
I really appreciate you coming.
And introduce the Glasgows to their next expert.
Thank you so much
Thank you for having me.
She's Dr. Allison Skinner Dorkanu, a psychology professor at the University of Georgia, who teaches implicit bias.
And I teach classes about prejudice and intergroup relations and racism.
To start, the doctor tells the Glasgows that our biases are created by exposure to verbal and nonverbal cues over our lifetime, historically favoring white Americans, and that teaching about bias can help us better understand it.
Just being aware doesn't do it. You have to also be sort of like concerned. So if it's something you don't want to do, then you can be working to sort of recognize, I know that this could be happening, and seeing it as a broader thing that's connected to other stuff. And even if I have all of the best intentions and I really believe that I don't want to behave this way, I might actually be doing something I don't want to be doing. So how can I put in these safeguards to prevent myself, like to try and catch myself if I'm not living up to my standards?
Coley expresses concerns about teaching race and bias in public school.
Would it make white people feel guilty and black people to feel? Tell me about that.
To answer that question, Dr. Skinner Dorkanu explained the study that looked at two different ways students learned about baseball legend Jackie Robinson, the first African-American Major League Baseball player. One group of students learned just about his accomplishments. The other learned about the accolades, but also his struggle with racism from fans.
And what they found is that the children, and this was children who are white, they showed less racial stereotyping after that lesson. So they were more likely to think of black people as like hardworking and smart, and were more supportive of like racial equity and racial equality.
Time to check in with the Glasgows after their interviews.
It's almost like they want to have a even playing field with the whole truth with history.
Coming up,
I mean,
Wow.
Yes.
the Glasgows step back in time and walk away with a better understanding of America's past.
I just was not familiar with that part of history.